everybody, welcome back to another episode of Nature's Always Right. Today's another farm tour with farmer Dawson Mehalko of Jubilant Fields Farms. So thank you so much for joining me, Dawson.
Absolutely, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's an honor to be out here. One of the reasons I really wanted to come visit Dawson, one of the things that makes his farm unique is that he's very young. Dawson's actually only 14 years old, and he's doing this. So I'm really excited to be out here and meet him and see how he's farming. He's doing things regeneratively and naturally. So we're gonna get the chance to talk with him and find out how he's doing all these different things. And I really want to talk to him about, what inspires him and what got him into this at such a young age. And I hope that if there's any other younger people out there watching, that you guys will be inspired by it. Just understand that you guys can do something like this too. All right, let's go take a look at his farm. Dawson's gonna take us on a big tour and show us all of his plans for the spring and summer. So it's gonna be really exciting. All right, let's do it. So Dawson, here we are at your farm, and I would love to know a little bit more about it. So what size are you working with? How many square feet?
So right now I have about 4,000 square feet in production.
Nice.
And as I get going this spring, it'll get almost double that. So I'll be at about a fifth of an acre at 8,000 square feet.
Excellent.
And last year I was only working with 3,000 square feet, so I'm just
nice.
Going and
Almost
slowly.
tripling it.
Yeah, but I'm going to do a lot of trials this year.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to do a lot of stuff in landscape fabric just to try to minimize the amount of time that I have to spend on it. And that way I can just figure out what's going to work and what I really want to move forward with.
Yeah, I think that's really smart. I think, the first couple seasons are really experimental and, trying out different crops. What do my customers want and all that sort of stuff. And you mentioned the landscape fabric. I see you've got a lot of grass going on here that you got to compete with. With the landscape fabric, do you plan on doing the burning in of the holes and then planting in like that? Or what's your plan for the landscape fabric?
So depending on what crops I'll be producing in it, I'll either be burning the holes or I'll just be laying it in between the rows. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing some field tomato trials this summer. And so what I'm just going to do with that is I'll just take a roll of landscape fabric and spread it in between the rows.
Nice.
That way I can pull it back and amend and side dress the tomatoes as needed. Versus with stuff such as lettuce and like broccolini and kale and that such stuff.
That you'll do with the holes.
I'll just burn the holes in it.
Nice.
And that way it's just plug and play.
Nice. So could you tell me a little bit about your bed prep here? I see that you looks like you started a new plot right here, and I saw on your Instagram that you recently were, getting this ready. So how did you prepare this?
So it was initially just hard packed clay, and so what I did is I took a lot of, because it's going to be a greenhouse, I really wanted to put a lot of amendments into it. So it's going to be more valuable real estate than my field beds.
Oh.
So what I did is I took all my extra, my leftover microgreen potting mix. So after the microgreens grow, I empty out the trays with that potting mix, and it still has lots of peat moss and such, and it really helps to loosen it up.
Yeah.
So I spread all of that, and then I tilled that in to a couple of inches. And then I spread about 4 inches of compost over the entire area.
Good. That's a lot. That's nice.
And then I tilled that in, and I was tilling it into about 8 inches. And so that's going to mix in some native clay, some of the native soil, but it'll be real nice and loose. Yeah,
and help kind of jumpstart the biology in there, get them working and start converting the soil for you. Yeah, excellent. I think that's a great way to start the land, especially. And I'm sure it looks like it brought up a lot of those rocks. You can start getting those out. Looks like that's gonna be a lot of fun getting those out over the years. But the soil's looking real rich and nice. So you said you're gonna be putting a greenhouse up here, and so what kind of crops will you be doing in that?
So part of it will be used as a nursery space.
Oh, cool.
Because my current nursery right here.
Yeah, this is what you're using right now.
We'll check this out. It's a little 8x8, and there's not a whole lot of space in it.
It's a great little starter, though.
Yeah, and it was a pretty cheap greenhouse to build to get going. But I'll be, with this new greenhouse, part of it will be used as a nursery, and then the rest of it will be used mostly for vining crops, so like tomatoes and cucumbers. Nice. Because they certainly do better under protection. Definitely. So for the first crop, while the tomatoes and cucumbers are just getting started, I'll have baby greens and baby vegetables planted. And
Cool.
then as those get bigger and the tomato and cucumber transplants get to full size,
Yeah.
or get to the proper size,
Yeah.
they'll go in the ground.
Right.
And then while they're growing up, the other crops, the first crops will be getting cropped out. And
Yes.
so
Yeah.
I'll be trying to keep as much stuff in the ground as possible
Exactly.
and get as much out of the greenhouse as I can, because it will be a heated greenhouse.
Heated, nice.
And
Okay.
so every little bit of fuel that I'm using to heat that, it's just going to raise that heating bill. So I got to get as much as I can out of it.
Absolutely. And yeah, I love the interplanting with the tomatoes. It's such a good technique. I'm in San Diego, so it's a little bit easier I've got longer season to play with, but I was able to do like 4 different crops all during the whole time with my tomatoes. So it's a huge booster to the revenue that comes in on those beds. So that'll be really excellent.
Yeah.
It's a great plan. I recently visited Mike Bell's farm, Dallas Half Acre, and he's using a ton of caterpillar tunnels too. And just my first impressions of Texas. You guys have, pretty extreme weather. It fluctuates pretty crazily. I flew in, it was like 75 degrees. The next day it was like 20 at night. So having these protected grow spaces seems really important. What do you do in summer to protect?
So last year was my first year in commercial production, so it was really a big learning curve. But I used shade cloth, 50% shade cloth over everything.
Nice.
And some people say that it's best to take that off after the transplants have gotten established or whatever you're germinating.
Yeah.
But I think I'm just going to leave it on, and then if I ever need to, I'll pull it off. But it's just the sun's just so strong, and with my clay soil, it just bakes really fast.
So you lose water from it pretty quickly, or how's it holding water?
It'll hold water okay, but it'll bake that top inch or so, and so you just get this crust that forms.
Curtis Stone had a video about that, I remember.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I don't have to deal with that, but what happens when it gets crusty like that?
So it's basically like a big fat rock, and you just can't get through it.
Oh.
So it just requires a lot of moisture to loosen that up.
Huh.
And so in order to avoid it, what I was doing is I was just top dressing with about a 1/4 inch of compost after every crop comes out.
Okay.
And so that keeps, with that compost, because it's not the clay, it doesn't form that crust, and so it helps to allow those plants to germinate.
I see.
With that crust, even with the shade cloth over it, it helps to slow that from forming. Okay. But it will still form, and so I've found it really key to be putting down some compost to just keep allow those plants to be able to push up.
So you'll prep the bed, do whatever you're doing to prep, put out compost, then seed direct into the compost.
Yeah, it's only a little bit of compost. I'm not putting like an inch down. Yeah. But it's just enough, just a top dressing. Got it. Just to be able to avoid that crust. Yeah. And because I have so many rocks here. Yeah. With several crops going in and then coming out, and then with that top dressing, that'll really help me to get a good tilt at the top few inches, which is really key for direct seeding or transplanting stuff. Absolutely. Yeah, nice. That's a little thing you got to deal with, but you've got a great solution. So awesome. So let's check out your greenhouse you got going on here, and let's check out your starts. And I know you do microgreens as well, so I'd love to see what you got going on in here. This is a great little greenhouse. So for everybody out there, you can see, you can build it very simply, very cheaply. Is it just cattle panel and 2x4s basically? Yeah, it's 2x4s and 2x3s, and then it's anchored to T-posts with bracket straps. And this went through a storm this past summer. It came out of nowhere. It had 60 mile per hour sustained straight line winds. So the same. That's cool. Hurricane equivalent. I thought this thing was toast. I was like, I'm gonna go out there and it's gonna be gone. Stayed fast. Fine. While trees all around were falling over. Wow, that's cool. So yeah, check it out, guys. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's about the cheapest you could build one, and it's very strong, especially starting out. That's a great example. Ooh, nice and warm in here. You got your fans going for airflow. Looks like you got some peas coming up. Cool. Yeah, tell us what you got in here. So I have my microgreens. and it's real tight in here just because it's so small. But I have microgreens along here. These are some tomato cuttings that I have that are rooting. There'll be some of the tomato transplants that I'll be putting into my greenhouse.
Like clones from another plant?
Yeah. So the tunnel that I'm putting up, it got delayed a lot, and so I had tomato plants that I intended to put in a lot sooner, but they got really, really big, and then they weren't going to make good transplants because they got overgrown.
Okay.
So I just took a bunch of cuttings,
nice.
They're rooting, and because this greenhouse is so humid, I didn't even use a dome. The dome would have helped, but I just put them right in, kept them nice and moist, and I'm getting root development. A lot of transplants, so this, I didn't plant the full tray, because I just didn't need them. These are 288 cell trays, but I have some radicchio here.
Oh, cool.
And then I have more radicchio down there. I'm doing a big
that looks
trial.
really nice right there. Really helpful.
I like radicchio a lot, and I think that it'll be a
What kind of customers like radicchio?
Chefs.
Chefs, okay.
On the West Coast, it seems to be something that's up and coming. There was actually a chicory festival launched last year, and from what I can tell, things out on the West Coast, when something's coming up there, it'll move towards the smaller cities, and DFW area is a pretty big metroplex in the U.S. So when it's starting out on those big cities,
I've never grown radicchio before, so yeah, maybe it's something I should look into as well.
Yeah, it's one of those things though. It's that people at the farmers market, they have no idea what it is.
Okay.
But if you go to grocery store and you get spring mix, you'll often see there is radicchio in there. So people have been eating it and they have no clue.
Okay.
But it is a bit bitter. Personally, I love it. So even if this is a complete bust, I still get to eat a lot of radicchio. So even if I can't sell any of it, at least I have a place to take it.
Yeah. So it looks like your soil mix here. What is it? Compost vermiculite or?
It is from Berger,
nice.
a Canadian company, and they have they used to have a facility out in Sulphur Springs, and so I was able to get it real cheaply from them.
Nice.
Sulphur Springs is about 45 minutes from where I am here.
Yeah, that's a good just have the mix ready to go. You just boom, start seeding. Don't waste your time making a mix.
Yeah,
nice.
And so I use that for my microgreens, and then I add a bit of fertility for my transplants.
So for the transplants, you're adding in a little bit extra amendment for more nutrients?
just a little bit.
What do you like to add?
Just a simple 333 or 444, something simple like that.
Nice.
And it's just a little bit more. I heard some different recommendations for different soil mixes, and I tried some different ones and had varied success. But when I just trialed more versus less, I just found the sweet spot. This specific blend for this exact potting mix works well.
Nice.
And I just sift it for these real small plugs.
You sift it, cool. That's I when I started sifting, I noticed a big difference in germination, and it's so much better.
So my microgreens, I actually don't sift it because it is a bit chunky, and so I will have some issues here and there. But it just takes so much more time to sift it that I'm willing to lose a little bit on the microgreens if it's not sifted.
Yeah.
But the transplants, these cells are obviously they're really, really small.
Yeah.
So they have to be sifted, or else they're not going to do very well.
Do you bottom water or just from the top?
This is just for extra rigidity.
Right.
Yeah, I'm just watering from the top.
Nice. All right.
So then I have a whole lot more transplants up on this shelf, and then
this is going in the field up top here. It looks like.
Yeah, and then I have microgreens there, and then more. Those are all leek transplants in the back.
Oh, nice.
The germination on this was really, really spotty. That's why it looks like that. But I have another batch germinating that'll replace this. It'll be a little bit later, but I saw, man, it's not germinating, so I planted that.
Nice.
And then I'm doing celery right there.
Oh, cool.
I have a tray of celery, and that's supposedly hard to do, but
yeah,
when I saw it germinating, I was like,
well,
maybe it'll do okay. So
the rates look good.
And
so what you got here? Red boar kale. Cherokee. No, that's a really good one I heard.
Yeah, that's my lettuce.
And
Adriana, Theodore. That's a new variety.
I don't know these two.
Adriana, it's a butterhead.
Oh,
so these two are butterheads.
Okay.
Theodore and Adriana. I've never done Theodore before. It just came out with Johnny's.
Oh.
I'm excited about it because it's a red one.
Ooh.
And butterhead here is extremely popular, I find, at the markets.
Okay, good.
And the Adriana really just goes and goes. It does really, really well. And then Cherokee, Panisi.
I heard this is a very good one for heat. That's what Mike was telling me.
So French Crisp, which is what Cherokee, Magenta, and Mural are. Though French Crisp, I find, and it's just in general a pretty heat tolerant one.
Cool.
And it can be very tricky to grow lettuce here in the summer, but if you're able to grow a good transplant, it can make it work. And then I have a bunch of Salanova here.
Nice. Luckily, Ray Tyler and Eric Schultz, those guys have cracked the code. Whether you're in dry heat or humid heat, those are the two guys. If you want to know how to grow greens in the summer, they're the ones who figured it out.
Yeah, for sure.
And didn't you intern with Ray at Rose Creek?
So I did work there for about 2.5 weeks. It was a work exchange. He needed help with something, and he was needing some help during the workshop that he was putting on with Curtis Stone. In exchange, I got to attend part of the workshop, and I learned a ton there.
I can only imagine, man.
It was pretty incredible, and Ray's a super nice guy. So yeah, that was a pretty amazing experience.
Yeah, I'm sure you leveled up your farming game big time.
Oh yeah, I came back and went, wow, I'm doing a lot wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just so cool. We have those guys to follow now because they've just paved the way for us. It's so easy.
Yeah.
We don't have to make all the mistakes. It's like, here's the best way to do everything. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's go out here and we'll check out some more stuff. These are golden beets, or what are these?
These are white beets.
White beets. Whoa.
So I got some decent. They didn't grow super evenly, but like I have a giant one here, and then I have some baby ones there.
Cool.
And
what do they taste like? I've never tried a white beet.
They're really just a mild sweet beet. There's not a ton to them that's different except for the color. They actually have kind of a green look on the outside. When you cut open to them, they're just white, and they don't bleed their color though. So that's
that's kind of neat.
That's one of the benefits to them.
Cool.
And I kind of like just growing oddball stuff.
What is this green? This purple thing?
The purple is a mustard.
It's a type of mustard. Okay. Can I try it?
Streaks? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it tastes like a mustard green.
I like it because of the shape.
It has a little bit of spice to it at the end. Yeah. That's pretty nice.
There's the yield though is pretty bad on it because it's such a delicate light green. In the mix, it's okay. I'm actually moving away though from the premixed, pre-blended seed because as you can see, I have damage on it, and it really sucks to have to go through harvest all of it and then have to sort it.
Yep.
So instead, I'm gonna
feel your pain.
Because I'm not at a production level where I can plant a bunch of varieties. So one bed of one variety and then another bed of another variety.
Okay.
Because I with just my Jang seeder, I'll just plant one row one variety and the next row another variety. And so it'll take a little bit more work to do it that way versus pre-blended. But then if I need to skip any rows because they didn't do well for whatever reason, then I don't have to sort during the post-harvest time.
Yeah, I like blending my own too. And then you can keep changing it, make little adjustments, like the ratios, and then you get to that really perfect textures that you want, and it's really fun.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit cheaper too to do it that way.
I want to try to get a JP5, the 5-row seeder.
Nice.
Even though I'm real small, I'm going to be doing so much baby stuff and because of the way they'll be planting different varieties, I think I can make it be worth it.
Yeah. Nice. Okay.
And I'm really wanting to make this year where I'm able to upgrade a lot of my tools and get a lot of stuff. That way, I'm really efficient.
Right.
Even because I don't have personal living costs that I can afford to spend a lot of money now to increase efficiency, and then as I scale up, whatever I do, I'm really efficient. And as I decide, eventually I'll want to buy my own piece of property, and then I already have everything ready to go.
Yep, your investment's already done.
Exactly.
You just need to break the land and then start going.
Exactly.
So, cool. That's a great plan.
This is some of the Adriana lettuce.
Okay,
I
the
harvested
butterhead, right?
some. Yeah, it's butterhead.
Is it a romaine over there?
It's romaine. I really haven't liked romaine this year, so I'm dropping it.
Uh-huh.
Or I should say, I haven't liked it last year.
Yeah.
Because the beginning of 2019. I haven't liked it though, so I'm dropping it. The French crisp, it has a similar enough texture and flavor that I can replace it with that.
It's a good observation.
This is panisi.
Panisi.
We had a real hard freeze.
That would look really pretty in a mix.
Yeah, I'll show you. It looks way nice. My head's over there. Look way nicer.
Okay.
It froze real hard though last night, so it looks a little wilted. As you can see, I just have a lot of beets. This is Chioggia. I've been growing all 4 colors, so I have Chioggia, gold, red, and
the white.
white.
Yeah, people love the gold. People always ask me, "Where do you have gold beets?"
Are you familiar with the variety Badger Flame?
I'm not.
Well, you need to try it. I'll have to give you some. But it's the best beet I've ever had.
It's crazy sweet and a lot of flavor.
It's a gold beet. It grows oblong.
Oh.
But the flavor is ridiculous, and it's super tender.
Oh.
No matter I was harvesting it midsummer. And there was at one point where my other beets were getting tough.
Yeah.
And I was trialing it, and I harvested it, and I went, this is just as tender as if it was fall, and it's 100 degrees out here.
Sweet, okay. So it's pretty heat resistant.
Yeah, I was super happy with that. From what I've heard, it's fairly cold tolerant too, so I should be able to do it year round.
Good. Yeah, it's nice when there's those varieties that you don't have to like switch between winter and summer, and keeps them more consistent and less to keep track of and all that.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool.
Makes seed orders less complicated.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
It can turn into a giant mess when it comes time to order seed, and you have
all these
hundreds of varieties to order.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really good. Yeah, you're trying to hone in your varieties. That's I think that's a big thing in the first few years, especially. You're growing what you want to be kind of known for and your specialty. Yeah. Dawson's got some turnips going, and then some salanova lettuce.
They're developing nicely. Super sweet.
What variety is that?
This is Hakurai.
Hakurai, I've heard of that one. Yeah, it's the Japanese one.
It's a salad turnip. There's a different variety called Niseko.
So, okay.
I don't know if Johnny still carries it. I think they just brought it on as a replacement for the Hakurai, but I preferred it to the Hakurai.
Yeah.
It was more heat tolerant, and that's very important for me. We'll have some cold nights, like last night got down to about 20 with a wind chill of 10 degrees.
Okay.
So, I mean, it was chilly, but nothing compared to 110 degree summers. So,
right. What happens when they get hot? Do they get more bitter and spicy, or
yeah, that's the big problem, is that they just become real spicy during summer. So heat tolerance is real key.
Okay.
Soil health is also real important when it comes to high heat. So I have a lot of improvement to make there. So like my turnips were not that great during summer because they just turned spicy because my soil wasn't that great, and I didn't have enough fertility.
So this, they kind of can protect themselves a little better and when they have the better health, they have better taste.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it goes with any vegetable almost. The better the soil, the more they can uptake those nutrients, and then the indicator is the flavor.
So I had 2 beds of radishes here. We had a light snow, and they got toasted. They turned into sponges.
Oh no.
But that far bed there, it was more raised versus this bed right here. So we had a real heavy rain come through, and that one fared fine, and this one got washed out. But then the ones that were left got super badly affected by pests versus the bed next to it wasn't at all.
Interesting.
So I hear some people say that crop health isn't related to being resistant to pests.
That's a lie. That's not true.
I think what people are saying in that regards, there's some validity to it. When you have I have an insane amount of flea beetles. They go after anything.
Sure.
But when there's not a whole lot, they'll go after the weaker stuff.
Of course. It's just like humans. If your immune system's low, you're getting the viruses have a chance to get you.
Exactly.
And it is literally the same type of immune system going on in the soil. So yeah, I'm a big believer in if the soil health is there, then the plant health is going to be there as well.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that I'm try to run things no-till. So I'm only
Yes.
tilling when I'm first
Right.
turning up ground, just because
Exactly.
my soil health is so bad to begin
Right.
with that I want to get a lot of compost in there to get it going
Yeah,
good.
I think it's a great thing. Yeah, that's what I did for my land as well, especially with the heavy clay soils. We just gotta break it apart. You kind of just, it's so compacted, you need to infuse that oxygen in there, and then you get the biology in there too.
Yeah.
It's just, we're jump starting it. And
Yeah.
I've even heard Elaine Ingham talk about that as well when they've done their different, extensive soil tests. Breaking the soil once with tilling, if you're adding that biology, it's going to be okay, and it actually kind of helps speed up the regeneration.
Yeah,
in my
and
opinion.
one thing to note is worms are extremely crucial to having good soil health.
Yeah.
They need oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have extremely hard packed soil,
Yeah.
adding compost just to the top, it'll help, and
Yeah.
it'll just take a while.
Right.
Versus if you're getting a lot of, you may kill some worms by
Right.
tilling at the beginning, but you're getting a lot of oxygen in there, and you're
some
and
food.
when you're mixing in a lot of compost,
Right.
now you're getting it deep, and worms can come in and really thrive. So.
Yeah. Context is everything.
Agreed. Depends on what your context is, and if your context makes sheet mulching and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And that's a great way
more
to do
flexible.
it too.
Yeah.
And that works absolutely. But I
Yeah.
think the emphasis is on that is it takes a longer amount of time.
Exactly.
And do you have the time or not?
I don't.
Or not. So what people can do, maybe they want to get their farm started right away. So you could do what Dawson did. He brought in a ton of fertility, tilled it in, boom, now he can plant in spring and go. Then, maybe he wants to get another plot going, maybe he's planning out to the future, to next year. He could tarp all that, or he could do a cover crop, he could sheet mulch it, and kind of do more of a no-dig approach, or bring in a bunch of compost, just, seed directly into that. There's many ways that you can start and do it.
Yeah.
There's not one right way.
So it's funny that you bring that up. So I'm actually approaching things in separate ways depending on how much time I have. So this area right here, I needed to get it going fast, so that's
Right.
why I tilled.
Yeah.
But this area right over here, I'm gonna turn it into beds.
Uh-huh.
But I'm kind of sloped that direction.
I see, uh-huh.
And so I have poor drainage
Mhm.
back there. And if you go back there where I have some just scraps and such dumped,
Yeah.
there's still standing water there
Wow.
that froze last night in the freeze.
Wow.
It's just really bad. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lightly till just to get in what's growing there currently,
Uh-huh.
and then I'm gonna dig out some trenches along the side to improve drainage, and that way when the water comes down the slope, it just goes into those and goes around the beds. And
Nice.
then
To
I'm
prevent
going to
flooding.
exactly.
What you're doing? Okay.
And then I'm gonna plant some heavy biomass cover crops,
Cool.
and because I won't need that ground until like midsummer.
Nice.
So I'm gonna try to do millet, which can grow to be 6 to 15 feet tall.
Wow.
And if I can get a ton of biomass in there, then I'll just mow it down
Yeah.
real low
Yeah.
to kill it. But now I just have a ton of mulch.
Right.
I'll throw a tarp over it.
Perfect.
Midsummer,
Perfect.
100 degrees. If I just put it the white side up, that way I don't kill all the biology that I just tried to bring in by doing that cover crop.
Exactly.
Now I'm gonna have decent soil, and then I'll just lay a lot of compost.
Yep.
I may mix that in a little bit with the decomposed
yeah.
cover crop, but probably not, just because I don't want to damage anything.
Yeah.
Add my fertilizer to amend, and then go from there. So,
Awesome.
I mean, it really just depends on what your context is, like
It
you
is.
said.
Yeah.
And I say context a lot, and
Yes.
you could probably even hear me muttering it in my dreams,
Yeah.
considering how much I tell people context.
Yes, I know. Some people like to get real religious with their certain way of doing things, and it's
Yeah.
just like, but there's gray area all the time with everything. So, another thing I thought about is you're talking about, mowing it down and leaving that organic matter on top. Another cool technique I've learned is you can spray out more biology in the form of compost teas or different Korean natural farming inputs. Add that in there as well, and let those guys go to work breaking it down for you. Then add in more compost on top, and boom, that soil is going to be massively alive. It'll be cool to see the results of that.
Yeah, I have some high hopes for it, and I'm gonna try to do some things that don't need as much fertility, just because I don't want to put in any heavy feeders on that immediately, just because I don't know how well it's gonna go.
Yeah.
And I will be adding fertilizer.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm a no fertilizer guy. I'm going to add fertility because I have low fertility and I don't have years and years to wait for it to build up.
Right.
So I'm going to add fertility, but I don't want to try to suck a lot out of soil that I'm just beginning to build.
So then over time, you know, do you plan on kind of like backing off of maybe adding the fertilizers and things as that fertility is built, as the soil structure and soil health comes? Or do you envision yourself always having to add?
So I know that it's going to decrease over time. I know that for a fact. So for example, this summer I'm growing in 30-inch by 25-foot beds. I'll be applying probably about 25 pounds of composted chicken manure per bed per flip. A bed flip midsummer, just because I'm going through a lot of nutrients, and that composted chicken manure is 333. So I want to get in a lot of fertility, but over time, I should be able to decrease on that drastically. So hopefully I'll be able to cut that in half over time. And then like during winter, I don't need to apply as much because things aren't growing as fast. And things are going a lot slower.
You're doing the lower feeding crops too.
Yeah.
Like some greens and stuff.
And lettuce really, you want it growing as fast as possible. Is what I've found and what I've learned from people like Ray Tyler. You want it growing as fast as possible in order to get a good crop, especially during midsummer. And so
the longer it's in the ground, the more bitter and the more so
and I also have a lot of grasshoppers here, and the longer it's in the ground, the more time there is for them to decide they want that. Depending on how
that's a good point too, the pest pressure
depending on how the year goes and what the food is like for them. So it's really just trying to work around things and get things in and out fast. But you were asking about the fertilizer. I don't want to leave that. When I'm growing such high density, I know that I'm gonna have to bring in fertility because I'm constantly doing new crops. It's high rotation. So whether that's compost, whether it's fertilizer, whether it's a mixture of both, I think I'm always gonna need to be bringing in something. And I don't think I'll ever be able to get to the point where I can just leave it alone unless I'm here for a couple of decades. But I don't plan on being here for a couple of decades, so I'm not planning that far out into the future anyway.
So it's a little bit more short term, just because someday you won't be here. So we got your best looking lettuce right here.
So here I have a mixture of all 8 varieties of salanova.
8. Wow.
There's 8 different varieties, and they all make a nice mix when all blended together. But I'm mostly just doing all 8 just to figure out which do best throughout all the different seasons, and then I'll go from there. And so, because some people on this side of the country will say, I like these 4. On the opposite side, they say, I like the opposite 4. So it's like, well, which ones am I gonna do? So for me, I find that my customers, they really like more of that buttery, daintier leaf versus the real curly stuff like this green incised. So I'm actually going to be tightening my spacing here. Right now it's 4 rows, 6 inches in row. I'm going to tighten it to 5 rows, 6 inches on center, because right now these rows are actually 7.5 inches apart.
I see.
And I really want a baby leaf. So salanova, it will only get to maybe about that big of a leaf at the biggest it's ever going to get. But I want a smaller leaf than that. So I want smaller heads, and so I just have to put in more in order to get decent yields.
It'll kind of force the lettuce to produce smaller leaves, so it's not going to get as much sunlight. That's a smart little technique. Plus, you get more yield.
And so I'm like, they're closing in faster within the row versus between the row because the spacing is different.
Interesting.
And so if I just tighten that, then I have less concern, because I'm still going to have the same size heads. I just have more of them in there. Versus some people, they want it to be completely full. You're not going to see any walkway. But that's a bigger leaf that I'm looking for, even though it's a salanova. So it's just a matter of what your market wants and what you want to grow.
Absolutely.
I mean, I could go with the bigger leaf if I was selling it in certain people and certain markets, but I also like the smaller stuff.
I do too. And I think in a salad mix, people like the smaller leaves. It's easier to chew on. And all that. So excellent.
I've seen a couple farmers, they're going, the highest yields, want the highest yields, but then they forget about what size leaf actually easily fits on a fork.
Right, absolutely.
And they're gonna have to cut the leaf in order to be able to take a bite.
Right, which most people, they don't want to do that. They want to just shove it in their mouth and go. So.
Yeah, so I mean, with this size leaf, it doesn't look too great because it's still half frozen, but that's still real nice and small.
Yeah, I love it.
That fits on a fork real nicely.
Yeah, that's a perfect size right there.
And so these plants will just grow a couple more leaves. These leaves won't really get much bigger because of the spacing. And then I'll harvest, and most of them will be about this size or a little bit smaller, and I'll make a real nice salad mix.
I just wanted Dawson to give us kind of a little tip on row cover, or the frost blankets here.
So one of the downsides to using row cover in high wind is that it'll flap up against the plants a lot, and so it'll either just cause it to brown, or with this frost, it just froze up against it, and so it causes some severe damage here. So this stuff over here is fine, and some of this may recover, but this stuff here, that's no good, and that's just been smushed in by that row cover. Versus the plants next in, it's a different variety of salanova, granted, but if it was green sweet crisp, it wouldn't look the same as this, just because there's not the row cover pushing up against it.
Right, yeah. Got up against there, the moisture stuck, and it kind of froze on there.
And that's why people use the hoops. It's just because you can have that issue with.
If you just let it float on top, it would be a disaster. To prevent it, could you maybe have like a little bit wider hoops, or how would you? Or is there just the wind kind of just push it up against? You can't stop it.
So I'm gonna bring my hoops out farther, and I may add more hoops per bed
to support,
so that there's not so much area where it can sweep in.
I see.
But it's like, for example, right here, there's a head of lettuce. It's right next to the hoop, and it still had that problem.
Oh.
So I may just need to bring this hoop out to here in order to avoid that. But we'll see.
There's a little adjustment.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you. That's a great tip for people out there. Well, thank you so much, Dawson. I know I learned a lot from you coming here, and I hope a lot of the viewers learned a lot as well. If they'd like to get in touch with you or kind of follow along with your work, what's a place that they could do that?
Jubilant Fields Farms on Instagram or Facebook. Instagram's probably the best way to find me. Shoot me a message. I'm happy to talk to anybody. That'd be the best place to reach me. You can follow along with me. I'm posting every day just what's happened that day, just to try to document things, and so you'll be able to see what's going on and what I'm doing every day if you follow along there.
Great.
And thanks for having me on your channel. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was really fun, man. So yeah, maybe I'll come back again someday and see how you've developed over a year or two. That'd be really fun.
That would be.
Yeah.